And we are back, and thanks for watching tonight. Earlier today, the Justice Department announced that it will not pursue federal civil rights charges against Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. In a November grand jury chose not to indict Wilson. It doesn't mean the Ferguson Police Department is off the hook. In a second separate report, the Department of Justice concluded the Ferguson Police Department routinely engages in racially biased practices. Between 2012 and 2014, the DOJ found racial bias against African Americans in court cases, traffic stops, and use of force, including dog bites. African Americans accounted for 93% of people arrested. It's important to note African Americans make up to 67% of the Ferguson population. Here's how Attorney General Eric Holder summed it up.
Our investigation showed that Ferguson police officers routinely violate the Fourth Amendment in stopping people without reasonable suspicion, arresting them without probable cause, and using unreasonable force against them.
Moments ago, Bob McCullough, the prosecuting attorney for the St. Louis County, had this to say about the DOJ's report on Darren Wilson.
I don't feel any need to feel vindicated by anything. I will note that, they did a very thorough job. Everything in that report, as I said, was available to them and to us on November 24th. So, it took them this time, I assume, to prepare the report to have that finished. But there isn't any new information. There isn't any information that we didn't know about. Yes, we took a lot of criticism from a lot of people, and it was unwarranted criticism, but I have a job to do. My people have a job to do. We did that job, and if there's some criticism that comes with it, it does.
Joining me tonight, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver of Missouri. Also with us, Michael Eric Dyson, professor, MSNBC political analyst, and of course, professor at Georgetown University. So that last soundbite, gentlemen, they know how the hell they operate their department, and they weren't going to do anything different about it. Congressman, your reaction to the story?
I think it's tragic, and I think that people around this country ought to read the report. The more people are familiar with what was actually in the report and what the DOJ found, the more people will realize that we still have a lingering problem on the basis of skin color. Think about this. There are emails that were found that referred to the President of the United States as a chimpanzee. There was another email suggesting that Michelle Obama was in some kind of tribal dance. There's another email that talked about black people and welfare. I mean, I think.
So why do those people still have a job? I don't know if they do, but well,
look, if one of the great corporations of our country, GE, for example, had a CEO who presided over that company when a report that was devastating came out talking about how horrible it was, I can tell you the stockholders and the board would get rid of him quickly. And I think something has to take place in Ferguson.
I find it hard to believe. It all starts with the stop, doesn't it, Dr. Dyson? I mean, it starts with the stop on the street. Are you going to mean to tell me that the police chief and the captains and the lieutenants and the sergeants didn't know these numbers?
Of course. Right, of course they did. And the problem is it's systemic. It does begin with the stop, but it doesn't stop there. It's reflected, as the congressman talked about, in the very nature of the system itself. If you've got people sending emails back and forth in the police department of Ferguson referring to the president as a chimpanzee, saying that he won't keep his job for 4 years because no black man does, talking about Michelle Obama in a tribal dance as a kind of reunion, then you know you've got, at the very least, racial bias. But then when you look at the stops that were being made, it's public funding at the expense of the poorest citizens of Ferguson. They were funding that entire community, and especially the police department, by stopping black people and then making them go to court and pay outrageous fines. And as a result of that, you had both an economic and systemic effort going on, as well as an individual bias. And that double whammy is horrible. And to the congressman's point, look at the woman who had to resign, is it Sister Amy, from Sony after emails were leaked, and they weren't even directly attributable to all of the people at the top, but she had to go as a result of that. So I think the congressman is absolutely right.
Congressman, how do you fix this?
Well, first of all, I think that the state of Missouri is going to have to perhaps step in. But before we get to that, I think that the Ferguson mayor and city council and police chief and department must sign a consent decree. They need to say we're guilty and tell us what we need to do for correcting the problems. If they don't sign the consent decree, they're going to be taken to court. And it's going to be one of the most shameful court sessions in the history of the country, because all of the dirty linen of that police department and that community, for that matter, will be brought out in front of the public. Think about this. They have a debtor's prison in Ferguson, because if you can't pay those unfair fines for being stopped, you end up going to jail when they stop you and you have warrants out for your arrest. That's debtor's prison.
Well, we all know the actions of the governor of Missouri throughout this entire ordeal. Do you think, Congressman, he'll be cooperative at this point and be progressive and move forward for change?
I think the governor will. I think he may have made some missteps early on, but I believe that this report, he's a former attorney general for the state.
Yeah.
And I think when this report crosses his desk, I think he's going to realize that he's going to have to use the power of his office. And I think that Jay Nixon will do that.
Dr. Dyson, what do the people do with these numbers, with this report?
Yeah, the congressman is far more optimistic than I am. I think Jay Nixon displays the kind of indifference and disingenuous distancing from the problem that is part of the symptom here of what we've got to confront. Because so what the people have to do is, number one, understand that the Department of Justice had a much higher burden of proof to meet. So when McCullough takes a kind of consolation from the findings, that's not true. He had much more evidence at hand to prove that they could at least go to trial to try Darren Wilson. Number two, we've got to lower the burden of the Department of Justice. Eric Holder talked about this already. We got to find a way when we can accuse people of hate crimes without meeting such a high burden. And then thirdly, the people of Ferguson have to make sure that they vote to put in prosecutors and mayors and other political representatives who represent the interests of the majority of the people there, and not a narrow sliver of obviously bigoted people who will.
And do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, I think that the mobilization of people on the ground for voting is important, but a social movement has grown out of Ferguson, and I don't think it's going to stop now.
All right, gentlemen.
It's not going to stop.
Great to have you with us tonight, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver and Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Appreciate your time on this. Coming up.